Up in the crevice, up in the crack, with 4 facing forward and 4 facing back, he thought for a moment he'd had an attack. His limbs had gone limp, and his face fallen slack, but no, he'd not eaten. Of food there'd been lack, he'd had nothing for weeks now, not even a snack up there in the crevice, up there in the crack. He crawled to the corner and sat peering out, spied a friend over yonder, but didn't dare spout. He'd been rendered feeble, not the best time to shout. So cautiously cornered, he looked all about. His tummy was rumbling, of food there'd been nout, and with 8 limbs to nourish, he'd a flare-up of gout. So hunched in the corner, he sat peering out. His web was in tatters, and dust hung all over. You'd hardly describe this as life lived in clover. He dreamt of that holiday brochure from Dover, with bright-coloured lorries from cover to cove. In youth he'd considered himself the romantic, an 8-legged rambler, not pedantic, yet decidedly shy and quite coyly romantic, now just a starving and frantic arachnid. With his end edging nearer, he'd rather espy a plump flying insect, like a fly flying by. But up here in the crevice, up here in the crack where morsels are scarce and his face has gone slack, he thinks of his spidery youth with a lack, and the hands of his life clock he'd gladly wind back. But of what use regret and of lingering pangs when you've nothing to stab with your spidery fangs? A dried husk is lifeless and sad to behold, and likely to wither and prone to grow mould. So, bravely, he hobbled and clung to the wall as he gingerly lowered and hoped not to fall. A last-ditch adventure to outdo them all. A hobble, a wobble, a dangle, a crawl. Exhausted and sweating, he reached for a ledge and clambered atop it, squeezed into a wedge. His legs were a-throbbing and head in a whirl. He thought he might vomit, but had nothing to hurl. And then it occurred to him, hunched on the ledge, whilst crammed in the crevice and tucked in a wedge, memories of foraging deep in a hedge, of web-spinning orgies. What dreams did he dredge from a past long forgotten and over too soon, out in the countryside under the moon? He toyed with a dead fly who'd succumbed to its fate, and had clearly quite recently become desiccate. But nothing amused him. He sat feeling glum. If he'd had thumbs to twiddle, he'd have twiddled a thumb. So as night began falling and darkness descended, he rolled on his back, stretched his legs, and upended.